Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Bonsai at Dr. Bonsai's Meme Emporium. It's been a while. Been dealing with a lot of IRL stuff, but hopefully I can get back to doing doing at least a couple of uploads every couple of weeks or once or twice a month. As the current situation allows. So I got this for kind of a screamer of a deal from my local GameStop. I know GameStop carries board games now. Who knew? And I got it because I wanted to get my kids into gaming, because everybody is like, oh, Heroquest is the best, Heroquest is the best. This is an out-of-box review, so I've actually already opened and played this a couple of times, but it's otherwise identical to what you're going to get at retail. So obviously you have this big lovely box. It's a hefty box. It's a thick boy. All right, then we got. So we see contents. See all that good stuff. So we're gonna do this. Ooh, that noise. This is one of the things that I appreciate about this box. Is something that I don't like about a lot of board games, is they come a certain way and then you have no way to put it back to like original state for like storage purposes where it's the most efficient. But this has these beautiful cardboard sleeves, which you could probably live without. The top one here is the terrain, so I'm going to try to push this aside. I filmed this review when I first got it, and I never published it because it was shit. I was not in my own house. I was kind of on the road, mobile, and I was just not able to get the quality where I wanted to. Not that these are any sort of type of quality, but anyways, so you get a bunch of terrain. So you get a bunch of these closed doors. The relief is very nice. The material is some sort of like mild PVC plastic, kind of like if you ever played like any board game by Fantasy Flight Games, where you kind of have those mild PVC resin plastic figures. So you get a number of closed doors to represent, rooms that you haven't been in, and then you get these open doors, which represent, rooms that you've already kind of been in and cleared, or you have an open pathway. I really like the terrain. I've seen comparisons of the original terrain versus the old. Oh, I never noticed there's a little rat in there. Look at that. But, and the old terrain was basically like a combination of like cardboard and like plastic pieces to kind of hold the cardboard together. So these are obviously miles better. They look kind of funky, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like, oh, this is an old, creepy, whimsical bookcase, or is it just the material that we used is kind of crappy and the miniature shrunk in weird ways? I don't know. I report, you decide. And then I got a little bookcase with a little rat. Look at that little rat guy. So and you get 3 of these little treasure chests. One of the things I'm impressed with is the quality of the detail on the miniatures is very, very nice. And I don't think I'm going to be painting mine because I just don't have that kind of patience or time right now. But the neat thing about this is you can just pop the lid off and you can hide stuff in there. I don't know if you put your weed in there. But otherwise, I don't know what you store it for. And then you have these little sprues with people skulls and rat skulls. And then you have, so you get 3 of those, and you get 3 rats that don't actually do anything. They're just set dressing. So if you're like, oh, it's got a rat. What does the rat mean? I don't know. What does the rat do? I don't know. And you have this cool little like kind of alchemists or table. If anybody that played Skyrim will probably recognize that. You get this neat little weapons rack. As you can see, it's crooked as a dog's hind leg. This is something I'll also bring up later when I get to the actual physical miniatures of like the good guys and the bad guys. But this material is very pliable. certain pieces, like obviously the bookshelves are really nice and sturdy, but these the benches, there's no flex there. So as you can see, really nicely detailed. Looks like a bench. It's very bench-like. And then the chair, the big throne, a throne room. How pretentious can you get? If you understood that reference, remember to take your leave for your bad back. And then you have the kind of the racks, the torture device, and then you have like a evil altar. Shoot it repeatedly. Again, if you understand that reference, remember to take your meds. And then you have this character sheets. So these are actually tear out. I assume that you can get more of these somehow. You could probably just copy them and print them or use. I'm sure there's some sort of app or like Builder or something that people do. And then you have the Heroquest cards. I really like these. They're actually they're neat. These are the character cards. They tell you who you are, and then you have your splash art. You have your dwarf, your barbarian, your wizard, and your elf. Elf waifu for the win. And they've all got their stats and also kind of quick reference cards for everybody on the table. So that's really nice. And then you get these cards with the monster faces, and these are obviously the monsters. So you get the not Chaos Warrior. Totally not. Not a Chaos Warrior. Absolutely not. Zombie, skeleton, orc, mummy, goblin, gargoyle, abomination. I don't know if this is the original way they came in the pack, but this is how I had them last. I played it with my kids who really enjoy it. Really, they like beating up the monsters. I'm like, here's your objective, and they're like, we're gonna fuck this monster shit up, and I'm like, okay. So, right, and then you get your spell cards. I've seen people online say that they don't like the art, but I like the way these cards are presented. You know, the actual cards themselves are very old school, very nostalgic. If you're a Heroquest, old Heroquest person, I was not. That was a little. I was not in that circle before I discovered being a nerd and virginity. And then, so you have the various different disciplines. You have water spells, you have air spells, you have earth, you have fire, and then you have the dread spells for basically you, the dungeon master. Because this is actually a game that features a dungeon master. If you've never heard of Heroquest, it's like a super, super light RPG. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's as detailed as something like Descent, Journeys in the Dark, or anything like that. So, and you have your treasure cards. So you have a certain amount of those, and amongst those you have things. So, you know, as you're going about doing stuff, you can find like a wandering monster and it populates an enemy, or, you know, gems or hazards, or, you know, gold, potions, jewels, lots of wandering monsters. There's like 5 wandering monsters. Why would you ever search anything? Because you just get your shit jumped by an orc. And then you have kind of the equipment. And I don't know if this is a mispack. Other players that have the game, usually it looks like you get like 2 or 3 of these, 3 cards each. But you know, mine only came with 1 short sword, and then a dagger. I feel like there should be at least 2, because one of the starting characters has a dagger, or has a short sword. And then you get into your uber Gucci stuff, your actual artifacts that have special powers and stuff. So, and these are persistent. So when you start a campaign, your rewards will persist, and the amount of gold that you have will persist from place to place. So there's that. And again, look at that. I'm just holding that by the clear plastic top. That is chef's kiss. 10 out of 10, no notes. All right, and then we got the actual the actual miniatures. So you got... I'm really glad I'm refilming this because you guys have been absolutely upset with the amount of like plastic on plastic clashing there was in my first review. So this is, the red guys are your characters. So you get the separate and legally distinct barbarian. You get the generic fantasy dwarf with the big axe. You get elf waifu with the 1980s anime style pointed ears, which I appreciate. That's an affectation that I enjoy. And then we have the wizard, and the wizard's staff is kind of floppy, and we'll talk about that here in a second when I get to the Dread Warriors. And then you have kind of your smattering of bad guys. So you have your kind of these cream colored or bone colored undead. So you get 2 mummies. You get 2 zombies. This bone color shows up like crap. So you get your 2 zombies. You get your that are identical. The mummies and the skeleton. The skeletons, and the zombies are identical to one another. So it's just same pose. So you have a guy carrying around a great big old scythe and nice and armored skelly, and then you have your orcs. So you get male orc number 1 with a big 2-handed axe. The armament doesn't actually matter. All the enemies kind of have a fixed attack stat and stuff like that, so it's not like the actual miniature matters. You have Orc Waifu 1 with giant mace. Then you have Orc Waifu number 2 with giant butcher blade. Really digging that. And then you have the replacement of the Famir, because anybody that wants some nightmare fuel, read up on Warhammer Fantasy's Famir, F-I-M-I-R, reproductive cycle. It's not great. So these are just kind of generic Cthulhu fish beast monsters things. So it's not chaos magic, by the way. It's dread magic. Dread magic. Totally different. Totally different. And then you have, I forgot. This orc, he's kind of in repose. And then you have a smattering of goblins. You have 2 of each. So you get a little stabby gobbo. Then you get another, stabby gobbo. And then you get female gobbo, not waifu material, 0 out of 10. See me after class. Not like that though. Next you have the Dread Warriors, and they're basically 4 identical miniatures. Now the material. So as you can see, and as you've seen in probably in a couple of the other ones, they're kind of floppy, right? So that works for you and against you. I've had my kids pitch these guys across the table, on the floor, across the room, and they're fine. And then you have the mace, which is kind of floppy. Now, this one's okay. There we go. That one's okay. But, let's see, there's one that's really, here we go. So I've done everything. I've used a hairdryer, I've stuck it under hot water, I've done the whole 9, right? And it will hold shape for a second, and then as soon as you hold it there, when it cools down, it'll eventually just go meow. So now luckily I didn't have that issue with the gargoyle, and this is kind of the big bad henchman guy. So this is supposed to represent a stone gargoyle. He's got a great big old axe and a big sword, so he's going to be the big bad on a lot of missions. And then finally you get your lich, so your undead lich, which is again very detailed, very sharp, great looking miniature. You also get 6 of these kind of bespoke dice. So you have various different shields and icons. So these are basically, you kill somebody, so this is a D6, so you have 3 sides, and then the other 3 you have 2 blocks for heroes, and then you have 1 block for the monster. So effectively, monsters save on a 6-up, heroes save on a 5-up, and then they wound everything on like 4-up. So, or everybody wounds everything on a 4-up. And then you have the standard red blocky dice, casino type dice for random movement, which is kind of an odd thing. I would have thought that they would have done something different, but nah, apparently they're like, yeah, random movement, hell yeah. I love random bullshit that keeps people from having fun and enjoying the game. I'm sure the old Heroquest old heads in the comments will be trying to figure out where I live and come murder me. But that's no different from any other day. So anyways, so we got our rule book, which is really brief. It's really concisely written. It's, you know, this asshole is evil. Go kill him and kill his minions and get lots of money. Kill orcs, make money. And then you have the quest book, which is specifically for the dungeon, kind of the dungeon master or the dungeon keeper. So this tells you, you know, all your different scenarios and board setups and where terrain is and where the monsters go and whatnot and how to spawn monsters. And then you have the DM screen. So you have, you know, basically the rule summary right here, which is perfect if you're running a game. And then normally there would be like a sheet of cardboard tokens. Again, I've played this a couple of times, so those are out. This is kind of the stairway, so this is your arrival point, basically your spawn point when the dungeon starts, and then you have this kind of going up or going down to a different level. And then you have these various different other cardboard markers. So you have like wound markers, you have, this is like an impassable wall, you have pit markers, so like a big fallen pit, and it's basically more of the same. The occasional, I believe, yeah, I think that's a secret door. Yeah, secret door. And kind of deadfalls, falling rocks, that's kind of like a sewer grate. So this will block like a double wide square, because everything's done by square movement. I'll show you the board here in a second. The board is kind of hard cardboard. It is mounted more or less. I'm not sure why they decided to make it as long as it was. Like, I'm sure that's, again, people are probably screaming at me in the comments because I know nothing about HeroQuest, but like, they could have just cut that off and made it a little bit shorter. So I don't know why they did that, and maybe like make the squares a little bit bigger, because my chief criticism about this is it gets crowded really fast. So you can kind of see, especially here, you can kind of see how the tiles, that's like a space that you would move. So if you've got like 3 heroes shoulder to shoulder stacked up waiting their turn to attack a monster, and then the other monsters try to get at, yeah, it just makes a mess. So I don't know, maybe that's a purely a skill issue on my part, where I'm just not good at placing my miniatures. That's well within the realm of possibility. Something to note, I was not particularly enamored by these tokens. I mean, this is a $135 game. This is not a cheap game. Look at how thin that is. The cardboard is really flimsy. I hope, so far, so good. I hope it will stand up to prolonged play, but I would not be surprised if it didn't. And I'm sure that's something that a cost or whatever that Hasbro had to balance, because New Avalon is publishing it here in the US under Hasbro's license through Avalon Hill. I don't know. It's this constant blob of snatching up any decent game design studio with a little bit of a fan base from the 80s and 90s, and just, you know, Hasbro is just snapping it up, and just everybody is. So HeroQuest, what do I think of it? I like it. It's not gonna, I was gonna say it's not gonna set the world on fire, but it already did that way back in the 80s and 90s. This is a game it's the grandfather of a lot of these type of board games. It is, so you can definitely tell the legacy in the DNA of the rules of how this was just like, this was going to be just a fun, great time system. And it still is. The mechanics hold up surprisingly well. Don't care for the random movement. And I'm sure, again, people probably screaming in the comments, there's a fan patch for that. But, it is what it is. So Heroquest. So retail, this was $135. I had some gift cards through my place of work, and I was able to get it down to like $25. So, that was just me being fucking lucky though. So, realistically, when I went to the GameStop, I think they just started running some sort of deal where they were offering it for $100 US retail. If you can get it at $100, I would recommend it. If you can't, wait till a sale happens or until you've got some like a gift card or credit, basically something to knock that price down to a more reasonable $100. Because I feel like what's in here, the quality of the components, especially the miniatures being as floppy as they are, cardboard not being as robust as it probably should be compared to like even a Fantasy Flight board game like Descent, Into the Dark, or Mansions of Madness, basically anything by that company, the component quality is way better generally. But so that's why I think the price point is probably about $35 too high. Otherwise, I really like this. They do have an app, and it's free. I have it on my phone. It's actually pretty nice, where you can use that you can basically play solo if you wanted to, because regardless of how many people are actually playing, you always deploy all 4 heroes, right? So if you're doing it solo, you're managing 4 heroes, which can be a lot of work, especially when you don't have like extra hands or an extra brain to kind of help you with the brain sweat and positioning and whatnot. But the app works fine enough. It's okay. It's not revolutionary. It's not doing anything that's catastrophic. I feel like the dice rolls and the app are a little less generous than actually rolling the dice that come in the board game. So, yeah. But yeah, recommended, especially if you have kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is an easy sell. As a family game, and if you want to, you can paint the miniatures. A lot of these figures, if you want to run even like a small-ish D&D campaign, like a very basic, sword and sorcery, none of this like, oh, these guys are, turbo special elves or whatever. No, it's just, no, I got a barbarian, an elf, and a dwarf, and this human wizard, and we're gonna go fight monsters and steal loot. So, but it's good to be back, guys, and I will be back with another one. It's gonna kind of stray. This one and the next one are kind of kid aimed reviews because of my current situation. I've been focusing on my kids a lot lately, so I want to make sure that I have games that they can play, so that aren't gonna break their brains. So obviously this one fits the bill, and I'm looking forward to the next review that I'm gonna do, and I hope it's gonna be kind of the same. So that's it. Bye.